From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, why we found God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
I'd like to welcome everyone here. This is a great honor for me to give tribute to the first responders and the veterans. You all know they're the real heroes of our country, and we should honor them. They deserve it. We've got several here, several there.
All right, I said there was another group of people I wanted to thank so much for being here today, and I truly do mean to give them a sincere thanks. These are some fellows that I've grown to know over the last couple of years. Let me tell you about these guys. These are some guys who, time and time again, will go out and pay tribute to our fallen heroes. They got their start from years back when there was this group of wackos that wanted to go out and protest military funerals. And these fellows thought this just isn't right. So what they did was they started a group of motorcycle riders, and whenever these wackos would show up at a military funeral, why, these fellows would get between the families and the wackos, and with their motorcycles and their flags. And as the wackos would protest the funerals, the guys would rev up their motorcycles and drown out the noise. And then as they would hang up their ugly signs, why, these fellows would get out there with their 3x5 American flags, and the next thing you know, the families couldn't even see those wackos. Well, guess what? The wackos still show up from time to time, but for the most part, the families can never see them. And that is in a great part thank you to the Patriot Guard. Right here, you see these guys with their vests. Just a minute, turn and face the crowd and get the warm round of applause that you all deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, the Illinois Patriot Guard.
Anyway, Jim Watson is not only our state representative, and he's a great state representative, but he's also a great friend. He's a great Marine. He'd done his time in service and got out. The war broke out. He re-enlisted, went back in, and this man loves his country. He loves his state. So would you welcome Jim Watson?
I imagine there's not a person in here who doesn't remember where they were on September 11th, 2001. Almost a decade later, and those images still haunt us. The firefighters rushing to the scene, the radio traffic as they ascended the stairs of those doomed towers. EMTs and policemen, firefighters, their faces soaked in ash and debris as they struggled to render service and aid to a shocked city. And then there was the aftermath, the endless string of funerals for those who charged into the gates of hell with little regard for their own safety. I often wonder about their last thoughts. Did they think of a son who they'd never see swing a baseball bat? Did they think of a daughter who they would never get to walk down an aisle on their wedding day? And as those volunteers from across the nation flocked to New York to assist in the searches and the seemingly endless cleanup, America called on our men and women in uniform to strike back, to defeat a ghostly enemy and liberate the world from such future terrorist attacks. And as those wars in Afghanistan and Iraq continued, so too did the sacrifice of the men and women who were tasked with that duty. If you've ever seen the movie Taking Chance, you are well aware of how those sacrifices extend beyond the battlefield. They extend to the families, to the friends, and entire communities. America has a long and proud tradition of military service, one that reaches back to Europe in World War I, when their freedom was challenged by an expansionist Germany. Unfortunately, those threats didn't end, and America again had to send its most precious resources, our sons and daughters, to make the world safe for democracy in World War II. And after World War II, we faced a new enemy, communism, and we sent our sons and daughters to stop the expansion in the frozen tundra of Korea and in the jungles and rice paddies of Vietnam. And today, a new generation of patriots have taken over the torch of freedom as they fight Muslim extremists in the mountains of Afghanistan and the cities of Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, more people live in freedom today throughout the world than in any other time in history. And that is because we've had soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that have answered the call. When I was in Iraq, I remember walking from our headquarters, from my hooch to our headquarters, and the ground shook with a violent explosion. And I can remember exchanging a look with a fellow Marine, the look that something bad just happened. And as it turned out, it had. A suicide bomber with explosives laced in his truck tried to run a checkpoint outside Camp Ramadi. And as his young Marines dove for cover, a second lieutenant jumped in the path, opened fire, and stopped that vehicle. He saved his men, he saved the checkpoint, but the vehicle exploded, and that young Marine lost his life. 23 years old, 2 weeks from going home. As we gathered afterward to discuss it, a lieutenant colonel looked at me and said, "Where do we find such men?" My friends, I submit to you that such men and women can be found right here in Central Illinois, in the heart of America, and they sit before us today.
Veterans, we've lost our last World War I veteran, I think approximately 3 months ago, Mr. Buckholz. He was our last living World War I veteran. And those guys made it possible for all of us. And I want to now introduce the World War II veterans and the World War II era veterans. Do we have any?
Yes, you do. Back there to the back. Sure. Stand up, Dad. Let them look at you.
Mr. Mayor. And we also have Mr. Good, World War II veteran.
Just like children.